Howdy! How are you today? I'm good, really good. I'll explain why in a second. First, you may be wanting me to explain why exactly I'm in the middle of this random forest. And that'll be a great question. And if you look deeper into it, this isn't even a forest at all. In fact, when I turn the camera around, you'll see a very different view. Now, based on what you just saw, you may be able to predict what this video is about. And if you've ever seen one of my videos, chances are one of those would have been about riding trains. And today we're doing exactly that. Because today we are going on a 4-hour scenic train ride through the beautiful scenery of Western Virginia on none other than the Norfolk and Western 611. Yep, you heard me right. Today we are riding on the Queen of Steam herself, Norfolk and Western number 611. And our ride begins here at Victoria Station in Goshen, Virginia. But anyway, let's get straight into the ride. We arrived about 1.5 hours before departure, and their website recommends that you arrive anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour before departure. And boarding of the train starts about 25 minutes before departure. And speaking of boarding, that is exactly what we are going to do right now. After showing our tickets, we swiftly made our way to the back of the train to take a look at the pair of GE C30-7 diesel-electric locomotives that will be hauling us back to the station after our journey is done. And from this point you can really see the entire length of this train. And as we made our way all the way forward to take a look at the locomotive, we passed by several small restaurants and gift shops where you can get yourself a morsel to munch before embarking on this 4-hour train journey and some 611 merch. Then we finally made it to the front of the train where we found number 611 steaming up for a long excursion. It's also a great place to take pictures at. I mean, come on, when's the last time you've seen something so beautiful? And with that, it was finally time for us to board. And as we walked through the doors, we found our seat on the right-hand side of the car. We left our bags here before going to look at the front locomotive. And as for the seat, it would have actually been really comfortable had it not been for all my camera equipment and 2 people sitting in front of us, which as you can see, extremely limited our legroom. But other than that, it would have actually been pretty nice. You could flip the seats back and forth so they wouldn't be facing each other, and the size of the window made it perfect for viewing the beautiful views we would be seeing. And as you've just seen, the doors have closed, which means we are about to depart, which is exactly what we did. We left Victoria Station at 2:34, 4 minutes late of our supposed departure of 2:30. As we left the station, we passed by several pieces of old rolling stock, including this old bi-level car, which happens to be the same type which we are currently in. Both that car and our car were once owned by Virginia Railway Express.
We then passed by 2 1940s-era baggage cars and a GE 45-ton switcher. Built between 1940 and 1956, the 45-tonners are a versatile breed of industrial light-duty switchers with their 20 miles per hour top speed, 4-axle bogie design, and a pretty powerful engine. These were major selling points during the world's dieselization, seeing as that it is a much better alternative to a heavy and expensive steam locomotive, and is the reason why 348 of them were ever built.
And as we advance further, we pass by a classic-styled caboose and a bay window caboose. The classic-styled one being vandalized beyond recognition, and the bay window caboose being in great condition. You could even still see that it was once owned by the Baltimore and Ohio Railway. And as we go over the switch that will put us on the main line, you can really get a good view of the entire train from here. And after we passed by some rail maintenance equipment, I decided to go and scout out a more comfortable seat on the upper level. And as you can see, I found one. It was really spacious, it had a ton of legroom, it even had enough space for you to lie down. And before I noticed, we had already switched tracks and were on the main line leaving Goshen. And as we're making our way to the scenic part of this scenic ride, I think this is as good a time as any to talk about the history of the absolute icon of steam that is currently finally pulling us. The Norfolk and Western 611 is a J-class locomotive, which were 484 Northern types built by Norfolk and Western's Roanoke shops, and a total of 14 were built between 1941 and 1950. The first 5 rolled into revenue service in October of 1941, numbered 600 to 604. Norfolk and Western immediately realized their potential. They then began working on the next batch of locomotives, as well as placing the ever-so-iconic streamlined shrouds on the current ones. 6 more locomotives were then put into revenue service in 1944, numbered 605 to 610. These locomotives were also known as the J1As, the only main difference being that they used a slightly different material for the boiler. However, due to World War II breaking out, they sadly didn't get the same streamlining treatment as their older brothers, since tough freight locomotives were needed for the war effort. But since the war ended, things were finally starting to look up for the J-class. Norfolk and Western had already begun building the third batch of locomotives, as well as finally giving all the previous locomotives the streamlined shrouding. The last 3 were delivered in April of 1950, and they entered revenue service in May of that same year. They were numbered 611 through 613, and this is where our buddy, the 611, finally comes into play. The 611 entered revenue service on May 29, 1950, pulling heavy coal trains, as well as the railroad's premier passenger services, such as the Cavalier and the Powhatan Arrow. However, things only went downhill from there. After a short 9 years of service, number 611 was retired from revenue service and donated to the Virginia Museum of Transportation, where it was put on static display. As for the rest, they were not so fortunate. All of them were scrapped, making 611 the sole survivor of the class. Finally, in 1981, after 19 years of sitting in a museum, 611 was finally restored to running operation, with its inaugural excursion taking place on a Labor Day weekend in 1982, pulling the Centennial Limited train from Roanoke, Virginia to Norfolk, Virginia. For the next decade, number 611 happily hauled excursion trains all over the state, until being withdrawn from excursion service in 1994 and being placed back on static display at the Virginia Museum of Transportation. Then, another 20 years later, her second restoration process began. She finally steamed back to life on May 21st, 2015, and her second inaugural excursion trip happened on April 9th, 2016. And I was actually lucky enough to be there to see it arrive in Manassas, Virginia that same year. And since then, 611 has been pulling excursions all the way from Virginia up to Strasburg in Pennsylvania. And now, here we are on 611's last excursion of 2023. But anyways, now that I've quickly summarized this locomotive's history, we can finally get back to the ride itself. And as I mentioned before, we had moved to the top of the bi-level car, where it was surprisingly swayy. Only downsides here is that it's pretty bumpy and swayy up here. You can see just how much I'm swaying right now, as is the rest of the train. Yeah, this is a great example of railroad infrastructure in the United States. Wow. But moving past that, service of the conductors was great. They were constantly offering drinks and snacks along the way. They even offered us cookies, which we ate immediately.
Right. Awesome.
And oh, look at that! All this talking about the history of the 611 finally got us to the scenic part of this railway. Wow, just look at that. But we didn't stay to admire the sights any longer, since it was time to go and take a look at the rest of our train. Now, we've paid for Coach Plus, which is located on the 3 bi-level cars in the middle of the train. And it grants you beautiful views from the second level, but you'll have to buy your own concessions. However, the conductor did give us those free cookies earlier. Now, if you're wondering, it is $120 per person, meaning for 2 of us, it was $240. And do I think it's worth it? Yeah, I think so. The bi-level car definitely has its perks, and it's definitely worth it if you can afford it. And as we walk through the connecting doors, we find ourselves in Coach, which is located on the 2 single-level carriages in the front of the train. And comfort really varies from which car you've been seated in. As you can see, the one we are now, the second coach car, has fine red leather seats, as well as tall, spacious ceilings. It also offers much bigger windows. Although not that it really matters, the view's still pretty much the same, it's just a difference. Now, the first coach car was interesting. First of all, in order to get in, they have an automatic door, which you simply press a button and it opens. Automatic doors, wow. That's impressive. And as you can see, there's not much different with this one, except for the fact that there's linen seats instead of leather ones. This car also serves as being as far forward as we passengers can go. This is as far as we can go. Now that we've reached as far forward as we can go, let's see how far backward we can go. Now for more technicals of coach class, it costs $100 per person. You do have to buy your own concessions, although I'm not sure if the conductors do offer you some food during the ride as they did with us. But the most important difference is that coach class includes a bathroom, which is actually inside the main car. Coach Plus does not have that. So in most ways, Coach is actually kind of better than Coach Plus, but I still think that the bi-level feature of it completely wins it over for me. And as we walk past one of my favorite parts in the whole train, which is completely open and we will return to later, we have made it to premium class, which also comes with its own bathroom. The bathroom was nice and spacious, with a hand pump needed to flush the toilet and a nice white seat for you to do your business. There was also a nice two-way window and a pretty tiny sink, as well as a mirror. Now, upon first class, premium doesn't look that much different from coach. You know, the leather seats and tall ceilings, but the main difference is that you have 4 seats facing each other with a nice table in the middle. It comes included with an in-car bathroom as well as complimentary drinks and snacks. But the real big downside of this is that it costs $190 per person. So in my opinion, if you're stuck between coach and premium, I'd say go with coach. It's pretty much the same thing. And now we have made our way to the cafe car, which also gave me a nice view of this little yard with another C-30 sitting in it. We'll come back to the cafe car later as we still have a lot of the train to go. And now we find ourselves in first class, specifically the group and specialty seating part. But as we enter here, you can really start to see things starting to get fancy, especially the wooden chairs, which can be moved around or taken away, especially if you're in a wheelchair. And here you can peek through the connecting door to see that we have arrived in Stanton. We'll stay here for about 10 minutes before turning around and heading back. Now on to the rest of first class. Here you can see things get even fancier, with also wooden moving seats and curtains for your windows. Now as I walk down this narrow hallway, I found the private suites, which you can get on this train. Now from the brief glimpse that we just got, there were 4 comfortable sofa seats facing each other, with a very nice big window in between. This car consists of just 3 of them down this narrow hallway, with a bathroom at the end. Now sadly, I wasn't able to get a good look at any of them since they were all occupied, which is interesting considering the fact that they cost about $300. But it only gets fancier from here, because right now we have entered the Dome Club car, which also has wooden movable seats, but most importantly, it includes a glass bubble dome. Although the dome barely takes up half the car, it still gives you beautiful panoramic views of both the train and the passing scenery. Directly below the glass dome, we find a nice private seating area. But sadly, this is where our venture to the back of the train ends.
Well, I really hope we can get to the observation car. Oh well, I guess we'll just head back to our seat.
And on our way back to the seat, we decided to stop by the cafe, which we passed on our way back, but this time we're actually buying some concessions. And here you can choose from a variety of different snacks and drinks, as well as some freshly perked coffee, which according to my mom was pretty good. And as we're waiting for our snacks, you can see that we have now left Stanton and are now on our way back to Victoria Station. However, we've decided to hold off eating our snacks for a little bit longer so we can stick our heads out in this open section in the connecting door between Premium and Coach Plus. And here you can see why this is my favorite place on the whole train. Just the feeling of the cold air hitting your face, as well as the exceptionally incredible views which you cannot find in any other car in the consist. However, we were starting to get quite peckish, so we decided to return to our seat and eat our snacks. But don't you worry, we will be returning to that open section later on in the video. But while we're here eating our snacks and waiting for this journey to end, I think I'll just stop talking and let you guys enjoy the beautiful views. And just like that, here we are back at Victoria Station at the end of our journey. Now that we have made a complete stop, we are going to make our way back to the front of the train to take a look at 611 blowing her whistle for the last time in 2023. And there we can see the firemen shoveling coal to get ready for the final whistle of 2023. Headphones users be warned. I think this is a perfect place to end the video. So with that, thank you for watching and coming with me on this absolutely wonderful journey. This has been an amazing experience. And with that, that's it for me, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Goodbye!